It is June 13th of 2021, and I want to say welcome to Atlantic Canada Cooks, everyone. And I mean, I'm Michelle. I think we all know that. There, and as we like to say, Maple Chef Michelle. My mom Helen here, who introduced me to the apple many years ago. And apples are a really big piece of Atlantic Canadian life. Good morning, Fairy. These are, you know, when I think in the investigation of apples, and we love this from looking around the world, is apples is one of the most distributed fruit there is in the world. So, and I did not realize there's 7,500 varieties of apples, which was also astonishing. Clearly, I'm not going to review those today, but I will tell you that my wonderful group of cooks in here, we're all using some different apples. So it's really exciting, and from different regions. And in the Atlantic Canada, one of the things that we love is you're going to start to see the apple trees. They're all out, they're getting going. You'll see the blossoms coming in, and then this fall, you're going to see Atlantic Canada have an unbelievable amount of apple production. So for all of our international guests, when you come here to Atlantic Canada, you will have many choices of locally grown apples. And we've got Belleville Orchards, which is a great one. Look, I've got one of their Scow ciders. So this is an incredible product made here in New Brunswick. And it is completely made 100% out of their apples. And they're one of the largest apple producers in Atlantic Canada. And interestingly enough, the storage containers and how their farms are so huge, they actually store other farmers' apples in special type of cooling areas so that they can be eaten all year long. So I think that's pretty spectacular. And what I also like about apples is they're very cost effective. So it's one of those wonderful things that is not going to break the bank, and the health benefits are extraordinary. So we often hear an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and you can eat as many apples as you would like in a day. So, and some apples actually have higher fiber and different pieces. So the menu today has got a lot of different uses of apple, which we're pretty excited about. And one interesting one is no one's making an apple pie. But we know that this fall we'll be having another episode in harvest season, of which we're going to have some of the farmers locally come in and speak to the club so they can see what's going on. And maybe by then I'll even host it from one of the orchards and we can really see what's going on. Apple picking is a big family activity that we do a lot here in Atlantic Canada as well. So let's go through this tremendous menu because it is very much that. We're going to get a couple of things cooking here. I can tell you one of the things that's already going on is apple crisp, and I can tell you it is my favorite dessert ever. Mom makes it for me instead of a birthday cake because it's my all-time favorite. My only disappointment today is it's being made in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, and I'm not going to get to try it. So we're really excited that Maureen, and she messaged me after last week's class, and I'm really excited because if someone's that excited about making something, you know that cook is going to be great at doing it. So she's going to have an apple crisp, and we've got Roz is going to be making some beautiful apple energy bars. I love that she's choosing this method to use apple, to use it as you're baking and componing. Richard, apple juice. I love the fact that he's got that juice and he's going to make us a drink and talk a bit about how apples are that way.
Well, I'm going to call it the apple energy drink is what I'm going to call it.
Say that again?
I'm going to call it the apple energy drink. My apple energy drink.
I love it. So apple energy drink from Richard. And then I'm going to do some fried apples. It's a recipe that we've had in our cooking club before, probably more than once. And it is one of those dishes that I love to share and really hope that people repeat because it's extremely easy to do. And I actually think it's better when you use a couple of different types of apples in it as well. I'm also making a spiced pork dish, which I have got in here. All the pork has already been marinating overnight, and it's been marinating overnight in some of Scott's beautiful original buffalo sauce, which has a bit of butter in there with that heat. So it actually really marinates differently. I also put a little bit of maple syrup, and then I've used the paprika garlic salt on it, and then topped it off with some herbs de Provence, de New Brunswick. So I am going to fry and crisp all that up, and then we're going to top that with an apple chutney. So I'm going to be using it in a really savory manner, which is going to be done with some fresh zucchini that we got that's just been picked here locally, not mine, not yet, but Angela at Fun Day Farms Local Harvest has so much growing in the farm, in the greenhouse now. There's lots of great ingredients to work with. So if that doesn't sound good to you, I know I'm getting hungry even as I stand here. So because we know Maureen's is cooking in the oven, I'm going to get started. Just Mom's got the pan going here. I'm just going to get some apples in the pan frying and talk about what that looks like. And then we're going to throw it over to Roz. How's that? To have a look at your energy bars. So I'm going to get these going. One of the things, and I've had this apparatus out before, so I'm going to get it out again. So we're going to show you this apple peeler that not only peels the apple, it takes the core out of it too, and creates it like a little apple accordion. So these are fantastic. So when I go to put those in the pan for what I'm cooking, or if you're baking a pie, if you see the thickness, it's a perfect even thickness, which is nice when you're cooking, which means my apples are all going to cook at the same. Thank you, Mom. So there, I can just take a knife and slice through half of that, and then all those are already cut in half, and they're ready to be sliced to go into the pan. So it's a really great apparatus. So I'm going to demonstrate one of these. So the apples I'm using, I'm going to use two, and one of them is an ambrosia apple. And what's really interesting as I learned about that, ambrosia apples started in British Columbia. So they're readily available, I think, all over, but quite a bit in Canada. And they're a hard apple. So they're a really firm apple. Many people might be familiar with a Honey Crisp. That's a really popular one. See the size difference? If I can get that better. This one's quite a bit smaller. The Honey Crisp are beautiful. They're fresh. They've got that really sweet. They're a much more expensive apple because they're not as readily produced. So these little ambrosia apples, we can get loads of them everywhere. So they're readily available. So, and they're really hard. So when I'm frying that apple, it's going to keep a little bit of its shape. So I'm going to move the camera down here so we can see this fun little apparatus at work. You can see all the wonderful jars of ingredients that are here. So I'm going to take this end of the apple. See, so it's this little machine here. It kind of looks like something. So I'm going to put the apple on the little end here. So you put this end in, and this is so one of the things I love about this, Maureen, we were talking earlier about not wasting the peel, right? So can everybody see that? I think there's a bottle in the way. Pretty good, guys? So that is going to peel the apple. That's a juicy apple, I'm going to tell everybody right now. And watch this. Isn't that fantastic? So I feel like it's an accordion, and I'm going to play some music for you, but we're not going to do that because we really don't want Michelle to sing. Michelle's a cook. She's not a singer. So I'm going to cut all these ones up, and they're going to go into the pan. So we're going to cut up 2 more of these hard ones, and I am going to use one of these ones, and this is a Gala apple. It is a softer apple. So, and I can even feel the difference in it. So I'm going to use a couple of these ones as well, because when you see at the end with the fried apples, you're going to see how this one will stay a little firmer and this one's going to melt a bit. And I can tell you this one is really juicy because it's currently dripping on the pork. which is probably a really nice thing. Now, what I want to show you is that's the peel. So it's really tiny. So if you're not going to, if you are throwing that away, it's a lot less waste. This time of year, I do keep it for a compost. Or sometimes, like I said, we were talking earlier of different uses for this. And if you have a dehydrator, these are beautifully done dehydrated, and then you eat them like little apple chips. So they're wonderful to be done that way. And I think Maureen will show you the size of hers afterwards. Those ones turn into great apple chips, Maureen. So we try to use food sustainability also helps us to try to keep using all of the pieces of the food whenever we can. So that certainly is a great one. So I want to tell you, the last couple things that are going to be going in. So we started the pan, and you really want to make sure they go into a hot pan, and I use coconut oil. So for this particular one, so a fairly hot pan, apples can stand up to a lot of heat, and they're really full of water as well. So, and I put about a tablespoon, so a good amount of the oil, hot pan, and those are going to cook down for about 20 minutes. And then the only other, there's two other ingredients that I put in them, is I put a little bit of a cinnamon and nutmeg. So, or you can do one or the other, or a little bit of both. And if it sounds familiar, it sounds a little bit like the seasoning that might go into an apple pie. So, and this particular seasoning is one that's called apple pie seasoning. And then I take the juice of a half a lemon and squeeze that into the apples as well while they're cooking. The acid helps with it to bring out more of the juices in that. And we're going to cook those till they're golden brown. So, and these apples, I can say this, instead of a bowl of ice cream, I often make a bowl of these fried apples, and I will top that off with some coconut cream or something like that. So it's a super healthy snack. Absolutely. Mom's taking my accordion apple to go into the next ingredient. So Rosalind looks like she is stirring away there. So we're excited to hear what she's got to go on. Are you ready to roll, Roz? 1 more minute. That's okay.
Yeah, 23 seconds to be exact.
Clearly, she's got something going in the oven. So I want to mention a few uses of apples. So apples are a tremendous substitute, especially people who want to eat gluten-free and dairy-free. I know Richard and I can't really have a lot of gluten. It bothers both of us. Or you're looking for things for thickening and sauces and people want to use flour or something. It's incredible to realize, though, that if you have a bottle of applesauce in your fridge, you can put that applesauce into many different components to use as a thickener. And it actually sometimes gives it a little extra sweet as well. So this one here is Fun Day Farms from Angela McDougall, our farmer that provides all of our wonderful fresh farm harvest and everything. So this is applesauce with a spiced maple. And it does taste exactly as good as it sounds. So I generally have a bottle of hers in my fridge all the time. In the fall, I will make some of my own, but it's got a really, really smooth and creamy consistency to it. And it does smell and taste as good as it sounds. But that is a great component. Or make your own applesauce. So Rosalind Miller, what's going on from your end of town?
Hi, gang. Nice to see everybody again. Happy Sunday. Nice and beautiful day here. Beautiful sunny day. Today I'm making cranberry. Actually, I was going to make, I am making, sorry, applesauce energy bars. The ingredients are, I'm using coconut oil instead of butter. So it's 1/4 cup of coconut oil. 1 cup of, it says for raisins, but I'm using cranberries because I prefer cranberries over raisins. So you can do blueberries, you can do whatever dried fruit you wish. It doesn't need to be raisins. It's 1/4 cup of applesauce. It is 2 teaspoons of vanilla. There's 2 1/4 cups of uncooked oatmeal, 1 cup of nuts. I did a mixture and I'll explain what I put in my mixture of nuts. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 beaten eggs, and a third of a cup of honey. And that's the only ingredients that go in it. So it's very simple. While I had my back to you, I was stirring my oatmeal and nut, and I melted the coconut oil on a medium heat. And then I put in the oats and my nut mixture. And I think you probably, let me see if I can get a little spoonful without putting it on my laptop. Nut mixture and the oats with the coconut oil, and you stir it for about 3 to 4 minutes on medium heat. You have to constantly stir it, otherwise it will burn on the bottom. And you really just want to roast them a little bit. You don't want to have any, because I'll tell you why I wanted to make sure I continuously stir them, because of the mixture I did with my nuts. So I'll tell you that why in a minute. So then you add, once you get the oatmeal and the nuts stirred up constantly for 3 to 4 minutes, and then you add the cinnamon and the salt for 1 more minute, and you stir again constantly. Once that's finished, you would, so what I did with my nut mixture is I chopped up almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and I added coconut, shredded unsweetened coconut, and I added hemp hearts, I added chia seeds. It's to make a cup worth. So what I did was I wanted to make sure that I had a mixture, because I prefer to have a lot of things. Typically it just says 1 cup of nuts, but you can put whatever you want. But again, you have to consistently stir that when it's heating up, because the coconut is a lot smaller than the chopped almond and walnuts. So it would cook inconsistently. And actually towards the end, if you're putting in the coconut and the chia seeds, towards the end, it started to smoke a little bit. So I took it off a few seconds early, because you really don't want to have that burnt taste. So after that, I'm going to let that, I have that in the big bowl. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cranberries, 1 cup of cranberries. And the cranberries, when they're dried, they're quite a bit bigger than raisins. So I chopped the cranberries up a little bit, just so that they're a little bit more consistent in size. As you can see, there's some bigger ones, some smaller ones. And then you take a 1/4 of a cup of applesauce. I am using, I know that Michelle talked about a few of the apples, but one of the apples that I sauced up was a John of Gold. So that's another form of the 75,000, is that what you said, Michelle? Apples. Now that is crazy. I did not know that, and I'm an apple girl. We've grown numerous apples at my farm. So that is the applesauce. And then I'm going to take some of the vanilla that Michelle and I brought back from the Dominican. And I lost my little jigger. It's here somewhere. Oh, well, I need, I'm going to remind myself, 2 teaspoons. So I'm going to just go 1, 2, just because that's what you do when you can't find your jigger. And then you stir that up and just set it aside. I'm going to give it a quick stir. So the applesauce is in with the vanilla and the cranberries. To be honest with you, I probably should have did that at the first, but I want to show you how I was putting it together. I want to show you my portions, but anyway, it'll all work out in the wash. So then what we do in that case is we pour the, so you stir in, so I have 2 eggs from down the, I have a very good friend that gives me eggs every week, so you gotta love that. 2 fresh farm eggs, and I need a 1/3 of a cup of honey. This is the honey that I had purchased from the gentleman that owns the Vito's restaurant that I showed you, the big bucket of honey. So I poured it into a jar, so it's a lot easier to manage. So it's a 1/4 of a cup, so I'm just going to go and measure, because I don't want it too sweet. I want to make sure that I use the right amount of honey. And it's nice and gooey and ooey, and that goes in with the eggs. And there we are. Yep. And you were right, Helen. I prefer the unpasteurized honey as well. But for cooking recipes and things, I have both in stock, along with maple syrup, of course. But I like using the pasteurized honey, just because it's a little bit more manageable when you're making energy balls or peanut butter balls or some recipes. And it's easier to spread on toast sometimes. So then you just beat up the honey and the eggs, and then, of course, the honey's a little cold now. And then you pour the honey and eggs mixture. Once I get it go, there we go. The honey's starting to really work now. So then it turns a beautiful color. Actually, see how it went from yellow to a little bit of a brown tinge because of the honey. You add that to your cranberries, applesauce, and vanilla. Get rid of that. And then you stir that up. So now you have a little bit more of a liquidy. Let me see if I can move my camera. There we go. So now there's a little bit more of a liquidy. So then you just stir that up, and then you just add this to the dry ingredients. Now the dry ingredients, there you go. You put the dry ingredients into a greased pan. I use coconut oil, but you can use butter or whatever oil you want to in order to do that. So then you just stir this up, and then I pop it in the oven. I put it in the oven, I should say. I don't pop it. I put it in the oven for 30 minutes at 350. And you give this a quick stir. And I pre-greased my pan just because that's a smart thing to do. I'm not usually that smart, but anyway. So I have to mix this up for a few minutes. Make sure that the eggs are mixed right through. You know how you have the coconut, you got to make sure that everything is wet. And then you put it in the oven, like I said, for 30 minutes at 350 and let it cool. And then you can cut it up into bite sizes. You can freeze it if you, whoops, I just realized my camera was showing, there we go. So you can put it in the oven for 30 minutes, like I said. Then once it's cooled, you can put it in, of course, you can share with friends, which is always nice. But you can also cut them up into bite size or bar size, and you can put them in the freezer. And they don't take long. They don't take long to thaw, and they're even good a little bit frozen. And you should have an 8x8 pan. And for whatever reason, I don't have that size pan, so I'm using a little bit of a smaller pan. So mine are going to be a little thicker, but I don't think it's going to change that much difference in the cooking time. I will keep an eye on it to make sure that they cook properly. But I'm just smoothing it out so that you can see the beautiful nut. Well, you probably can't see the nuts and the cranberries and the, you'll see the cranberries for sure. So you just pat it down. Make sure your pan is well greased, otherwise it would get stuck. And normally when I make energy bars, I usually typically make non-cooking energy bars. This is the first time I'm making one that I bake, so I'm going to be very interested to see what it looks like at the end. Hi, Diane. So here's the applesauce cranberry energy bars, and I'm going to pop them in the oven for 30 minutes, like I said, and I'll show you what they look like at the end of it. Are you ready to come back on, Michelle? Okay, any questions, anybody? Perfect. I'll let you know what it looks like when we're done.
Roz, those sound absolutely delicious, and thank you for taking, because that's got a few steps, and I think you make sure you combine them in the right order to get them in. I can tell you I've had the privilege of having many of Rosalind's energy balls and the things that she makes, and they are always spectacular. We tend to keep each other well taken care of in those particular categories. Rosalind, I'm going to look forward. I'm going to be making some of this extra slaw that I have here to share with you today. So just before we go over and have a drink with Richard, I'm going to put together this really beautiful slaw, which is really easy, and it's beautiful because I chose to use pretty things. So a slaw, we call that here, and I should have looked up a little bit more about why it's called a slaw, but basically it's a form of a salad, and generally all the ingredients in it are harder ingredients like cabbage and different things. And then it's mixed with a light dressing, which here in Atlantic Canada is referred to as a slaw. And I don't know, Jacqueline or Ty from your guys' countries, if that is a term but it's like a side salad. But do you ever use the word slaw or coleslaw? Yes? Good for, all right. So we're on there. I should have looked that one up, which I should have called on you for that. So I have already diced up some of these beautiful ingredients. And I want to say, one of the things that I used in it are these gorgeous little salad turnips. And they are a different variety of a turnip. And Angela grows them here with Rosalind. Got them down in Lunenburg last time. We're really excited. So they're really hard. And unlike those white radish, this one's actually a turnip. So it looks the same. And then I got some beautiful fresh radish that I got yesterday. And very exciting, fresh picked out of my garden this morning, is this little guy. Isn't he cute? With the white on him. So there we go, Mom, or whatever, one of our first babies. So I went hunting to make sure. This is called a pink lady. So it's supposed to grow long and skinny. And she's a beautiful little pink lady, isn't she? And they have white down at the bottom and then the red up at the top. And these are less bitter. It's a little bit of a sweeter radish. So I'm excited about the pink lady. So, and then the other one that I'm putting in here is I'm going to put some golden beets. So this is a golden beet. So unlike a beet that looks normally red and then watch for it, that's what it looks like on the inside. So I don't know if those, again, maybe Jack can give us a wave in the variety of beets that you get. And hopefully you get some of these beautiful golden ones in and around your region. They're lovely to cook with. They're a little bit more mild or eat raw than a traditional red beet. And the other thing is, unlike a red beet, my hands have not turned completely orange when I'm cooking with this particular one. So it looks very, very pretty. So I've diced all of those up. So I have all my radish, there's some purple radish as well diced up. I have that. And then, of course, I took one of the most traditional ingredients in a slaw, and I used some traditional cabbage. So, and I made sure everything is sliced very thin. And like I said, so I've got my turnip all cut up here, and I kind of cut them into little strips. That's kind of how they match the way that the cabbage naturally comes out. So we've got 3 different kinds of radish with those beautiful golden beets in there. And then these sticks that I'm running around, I have also cut out from my garden some garlic chives as well as some fresh chives. And I'm going to put in this amount, about a handful of chives about this big. So when that cuts down, it's probably going to cut down to about a quarter of a cup. So that's the vegetable that's going to go into my slaw. The other thing is, of course, apples. So I'm going to use the ambrosia apple because it's the harder apple, right? So we really want to make sure. So the same thing with my apple, I made sure it's nice and clean, and I love leaving the skins on. So when I do this one, I really cut the apple around so that so I get all that nice color of the red on every strip when it's in the slaw. It looks good, it tastes good that way, but it definitely makes it look very, very pretty when you're mixing it all up. So I'm going to get all that mixed up together, and then I'm going to show you how that looks in a minute after Richard with his drink. But in my dressing, very, very simple. I use some regular mayonnaise. So I've got a quarter of a cup of mayonnaise. And then this is a honey mustard. So this particular mustard is just a little bit sweeter. It doesn't, you could use, and I'm going to use about a tablespoon of that. So that's the only things that I'm putting in there is a little bit of the mustard and the mayonnaise and some salt and pepper. Fresh cracked salt, fresh cracked pepper. So of course I've got my wonderful little salt thing here. So I'm going to put a little bit of fresh salt, and then I'll put a few cracks of fresh pepper. And in all honesty, I'm not going to add any other spices because the flavor of the radish, the turnip, the beet, and that apple already have so many beautiful flavors on their own that it just needs a little bit of sauce to get it going. So you're going to see when I mix it all together here in a few minutes and just how beautiful that it does look. So, but that is the simplicity in ingredients. What I want to say to anybody is, these would be the different ingredients that I cut up to do, but you can choose any one. Carrots would be a great, wonderful addition into this. So any of a nice hard root vegetable are excellent to put in, or one of Rosalind's favorite, kohlrabi, which I don't even have any kohlrabi right now, but I'm very excited to let you know that I will be growing kohlrabi this year. So any other questions or any other suggestions on what you do with your coleslaw, please, Rosalind, and then we'll go over to Richard just in.
Well, you know how a lot of people, oh, sorry, Michelle. You know how a lot of people don't like the stalk of the broccoli? What I do is I use the stalk of the broccoli as a shred because it's a hard, crunchy portion of the broccoli. So that way I get to use up I never throw my broccoli stalk out. That's my favorite part. The top is just part of whatever. It's a stalk that I really enjoy. So I always eat the stalk. If you're cooking broccoli, I will eat the stalk before I eat the heads. So that's one thing that I would include. The other thing too is a little bit of celery, but you know, that can be a little bit. And you know what would be really good in there, Michelle, is that lovage that Nicola's father gave us from Lunenburg. Once it'll just give that, and that way you can eliminate the celery and just use that instead. That would be a really good choice in there.
I love that idea, Roz. I was eating a piece of it the other day.
I know, it's so good.
Garden sampling. I was in the garden, and because it is maturing and it is doing well, which is the love. I think we had that out on a previous episode. We'll bring that back. It's called lovage, Lovage, just like it sounds. And it's a beautiful herb, and it grows, and it has the same flavor as celery. So you can use it, sauces, spices. That would be an excellent addition in there. I'm excited to get the way this flavor is with the golden beet. Welcome, Manuel. We'll get you to mute your microphone. There we go. All right, Richard, we're getting thirsty, and I am excited about what you're going to be making us for some apple energy drink. Over to you, Richard, in Ireland.
Good day, everyone. So I've learned quite a bit today. I had no idea slaw came from that side of the pond, actually, because it's so huge. It's called coleslaw over here always, but it's so huge in the UK and Ireland. And it's, you know, every restaurant has it with 2 or 3 dishes. I just thought, but the thing is, New England is just below Atlantic Canada. And it's the oldest, you know, settled, European settled part of North America. So there'd be a lot of traffic back and forth. And that culture down there is, you know, very connected to Atlantic Canada. So that's quite interesting. I learned something today. That's good. And I've learned about lovage. I had no idea what that was. I wonder if it's as good as celery, because can you, does it take more energy to eat it than it adds? Because.
Answer that question, Michelle. Richard, it's an.
I can't hear you.
So Richard, it's an herb, and it doesn't burn the celery. So let's talk about that drink, buddy, because we are at 9:34 and we've got a few more recipes to get to.
Right. So red apple is the theme today, and I bought my my apples. This apple is called Red Prince. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that before. No? Well, Red Prince, obviously it's an Irish thing because there's a famous prince called Red Hugh O'Donnell of the 15th century, and he was like an Irish Robin Hood. So that's what that is named after, up in Donegal. And the price, of course, as Michelle was saying, there you go, 6 for €1.79, €1.79. So that's fantastic. Now what I'm doing is I decided to stick with the red theme, and I'm adding strawberries. Yummy. It's strawberry season here in Ireland. And if you're ever over here in Ireland this time of year, Wexford is the place where you get the best strawberries, Wexford. Because believe it or not, there is one little corner of Ireland that's sunny and warm, and it's just that little corner, and that's it. I'm in the really wet part. But it's very dramatic around here, the scenery, but this is actually a good place where you get some sunshine. They actually get, believe it or not, 500 hours a year more than we get. So that's quite a bit. Now, as Ross was mentioning with the cores, something I do with the cores is they're kind of like with the broccoli as well. With the broccoli cores, I actually juice those and I drink them. That's how I get rid of the cores. And that's what I'm doing with these apple cores too. So I've made some apple juice here and I'm just gonna add it before I put it in the blender. So this is gonna be noisy for a second. So this is my fresh, very, very fresh apple juice on its own right here. Now what I'm gonna do is take off the head. And then I'm gonna add it into my blender thing. So what's in the blender? I have a mixture of the rest of the apples. So you can see the edges which have been cut off. So I have a mixture of these which go in here, along with fresh Wexford strawberries. Sweet and tasty. And then I'm going to add this as the liquid. And for extra energy, a tiny little bit of lemon, but not so much that we take away from the flavor. A tiny little bit of lime. And I think we're ready to blend. Okay. Now there will be one more ingredient added just for a little bit of refreshing carbonation.
Richard, how many apples does it take for you that you're putting in there?
Pardon me?
How many apples did you use?
Well, through the juicer, I'd say about 1.5, and then another full one in here, along with about 5 strawberries. And let's put this in a glass. No, I'm going to add one last thing, a little bit of tonic water, just for refreshing carbonation. Tiny little bit of that. Oh, it's bubbling up. Good thing I stopped halfway. And there we go. Energy drink. Now, this is my first time tasting this. When I'm on the show, most of the stuff I do, I just make up on the fly, just put together. Let's make something creative and interesting.
Planning. Let's be realistic, Richard. This is a 45-week cooking show. You do a lot of planning and you definitely make sure you're well prepared to present our guests. So tell us what it tastes like.
What I mean is that I just, it's usually the first time I've done it.
It's
not something I usually do. Really, really good. It's a really good energy drink, to be honest. Because the real energy drinks are usually full of weird stuff like taurine and whatever those weird stuff is, they usually give you a headache anyway, but this is the real thing,
So recap us again. What are the exact ingredients in it?
It's really good. It's really good, guys. So what I did was I juiced about an apple and a half, mostly the cores. And then I added the ends of the apples into the blender, along with some fresh Wexford strawberries, like this. And a tiny little bit of lemon and a wee bit of lime as well. So that's great. I think I'm going to climb a mountain this afternoon. So. Well,
Richard, I want to thank you for that. And I also want to say, I like how you say a teeny little bit of lime at the end, everything that you said. And then your Irish tinge will come out right there.
A teeny little bit of the lime.
Well, I'm going to make sure we're looking forward to you making that drink for all of us for refreshing when you get here to Canada. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go over, we're going to look at the fried apples that we've got out. And the slaw that's finished off. So I'm going to go over a few things here. Then we're going to go over and see what Maureen's cooking. And we're going to wrap up with that beautiful apple chutney at the end. So while Mom's grabbing that, everybody wants to have a look. There's the beautiful apple slaw. Got it in. twist that around. It's one of the prettiest ones that you can serve for people too. You can see. And then I put a few extra apples and those beautiful golden beets on top. And these are chive blossoms. So when chives get mature, they put these beautiful blossoms out at the end, and they are all edible and they are lovely, but they also look very pretty when you're going to top off your food. And I will give you a quick recipe because we talked a bit about vinegars. And vinegars are really key. And apple cider makes, a lot of vinegar that we use here in Atlantic Canada. I hope elsewhere we'll use a lot of medicinal things, and things are made out of the apple cider vinegar. So I know Rosalind taught me this amazing recipe that I made. So getting some very good local apple cider vinegar. See how beautifully clear that is. There's a little teeny bit of sediment at the bottom. That's okay, because we know then that's the good stuff. So that's got a little bit of what is called the mother. This is another brand, and it says it's a raw unfiltered. So you're going to see this one, if I can get it turned around a bit more. You see it's not as clear. So this is the one that has zero filtering at all. So it adds a little bit more nutritional properties, especially when it comes to digestion. So if you didn't realize that about apple cider and apple cider vinegar, it is really fantastic from a health standpoint. But we'll go over to more of that stuff on a next apple piece. So what I've done, and this was a recipe again that was inspired from my buddy Rosalind, is we take this beautiful apple cider vinegar, and I'm going to fill it full of the chives blossoms. And in a few weeks, that vinegar will be all infused with the flavor of these beautiful chive blossoms. And then you can eat them as well and put them into recipes because they taste absolutely delicious. So another really great way to take where apples are used in another application, I guess is what I'm looking for. We also have our good friend Corey. His name is the Backyard Herbalist. And this is a heart shrub vinegar that he makes, which is really spectacular. And I'm just going to read you the ingredients in it. And I think what's important to understand is what these ingredients can do for your health in consuming it every day. So there's hawthorn berries, rose petals, organic ACB, and organic raw honey. So that's what's mixed in with this. And I take a couple of tablespoons of this a day, and it definitely helps with everything. And it helps with your skin too, because apples and that are very, very good for your skin. So we could go on about a lot of other pieces of it, but there is one more. This was an apple vinegar that's made by a local producer here. It's all infused with rhubarb. So there's a lot of really different ways that you can take that vinegar and use it. I used apple cider vinegar a lot in my vinaigrettes that I'm making for salads. So it definitely adds a little bit different flavor. So slaw's all done. I already did a taste test. It tastes absolutely fantastic. And Mom has done a tremendous job here of getting all of the apples fried up. So hopefully everybody can see that. I'm gonna put the camera down just a bit. And see the color? Now, the only thing in that is fried apples, and we added walnuts with a little bit of the cinnamon and nutmeg. But if you see how those cook right down, and does that not look like a lovely bowl that you would like to put a spoon in? You can top that with some nice whipped cream, some mint, whatever it is. I keep these in my fridge. And to be honest with you, I probably eat them 2 or 3 times a week. It's a great snack. It's a fantastic different way to do it. I also can tell you they're amazing, dripped and topped over the brownies. So one of the other ways that I did that, because we all know my famous sweet potato brownie keeps coming back over and over again. You can take some of these apples that we have here and simply drizzle those down on top of that brownie, and there's breakfast. That's probably what I'm going to have for breakfast right after the show. And then, of course, what else would I do with that? I'll top that with some maple syrup to make sure that that gets the perfect combination in there. So apples, sweet, energy, all different ways. But let's go over to Maureen, who I think is got her all set up out back. She said she was going to do that. I think it's spectacular. So we love this. So live from outdoor in beautiful Liverpool, Nova Scotia, I am so proud to have Maureen McMullen to introduce some of our favorite recipes. But let's talk about apple crisp, Maureen. It looks beautiful.
Gosh, can you see me?
We can see you and we can hear you. Tell us about your apple crisp.
Okay, so yes, I'm just making up the traditional apple crisp, or in some parts of the world, they would call it apple crumble. Same thing, really. And it's so simple. It's like the simplest dish almost in the world to make. So you just need, well, I always use Granny Smith apples. I use 3. You could use a different type of apple. It depends on what consistency you really like. And then I use a ½ cup of brown sugar, or you can use caster sugar or whatever sugar you actually prefer, and a teaspoon of cinnamon, a ½ teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/3 cup of butter. And that's what the actual base is that I put in. And so I would just show you how that would work. That's basically the apples. They need to be cut up. Can you see that? Can you see it, Michelle?
A bit higher, Mom. A bit higher. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of how the apple should be cut up. And you're going to have, your crumble is going to look like this. Can you see this?
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Okay, that's the mixture that goes on top. But the top of the mixture, again, is very, very simple, because you only need, again, I use brown sugar, a cup of flour, and a ½ cup of butter. And you again, you can put a bit of cinnamon in that if you wish, but you have to mix up the crumble with your hands. It's got to come to that crumbly consistency like this. Yeah, it's so simple. So basically all I have here is I have the butter, the flour, the apples, cinnamon and nutmeg, and sugar. It's so very, very simple. And after you bake that in the oven for, I guess, 35 to 45 minutes, you're going to come up with this.
Bravo. Very well. Very well. Delicious.
And I'm actually going to have mine with not right this minute, but I'm going to have it a little bit later, because my sister Pat is coming down and we're going to put ice cream on it.
Perfect. That's a nice day. That's a nice day, isn't it?
Yes, most definitely. Maureen,
I'll
also,
I'll just show you the view today.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. I'll just show you down here the view. So this is how fabulous it is down here. So I'm hoping you can all get down here.
Wow, that's amazing. It looked really windy when you were sitting down there, but it's a beautiful day. Huh?
Yeah, it's perfect. Yes, so it's a wonderful spot, and I'm hoping that all of you can get down here and visit me.
yes, once the Atlantic bubble opens, we'll be down for sure. Also, Maureen, one of the ways that I like to change up the crumble a little bit is I add rolled oats, gluten-free rolled oats as well. My kids like it with the oats as well. So, and then I just add a little bit more coconut oil, or I do put some gluten-free flour in it as well, just to kind of make it the same consistency that you have, only I add the oats. So that's what I like it with the oats as well. It ends up being more like a breakfast meal. So
well, it's great with crumble, because you can add or detract whatever you like. But it's such a simple dish to make, and it's absolutely one of the most stable and delicious dishes to make as well. So, and of course, I didn't get to use Nova Scotian apples because I couldn't lay my hands on any. But Nova Scotia, Annapolis Valley is famous for their apples. So, yes, but I think most people know that. But just thought I'd mention that.
Fantastic.
definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Back to you, Michelle.
Maureen, thank you for the tour. First of all, and thank you for making apple crisp. I can't wait to come visit and try it. One of my variations that this time of year I do sometimes is make it a rhubarb and apple crisp, and actually put a little bit of rhubarb in it too. I don't tend to do it unless it's in season. So, but it's a wonderful addition to it. And I know the other week we had those beautiful rhubarb leaves out.
They were so wonderful. They looked like elephant ears. They were so huge.
I know, it was really crazy. We have, and Rosalind has transplanted some in my backyard, and it is doing fantastic as well. So I'm sure you're going to see a little bit more rhubarb on some future episodes. There's no doubt about it. So as we're wrapping up the other pieces, it's interesting. I'm sitting here looking at my table of the variety of different things I have in front of it. But one of the things I want to say is when you're taking apples, apples are a great snacker. And we were discussing this prior to the class. And Jacqueline's going to go over and talk about her recipe right now from Vietnam. And she's going to talk a little bit about, I like an apple in a salad. So Jacqueline, let's go look at your apple in your salad, because I think that's one of the best uses ever. So over to you. And Mom's behind me saying potato salad. I'll put the screen share on. One of the other things my mother does, we featured apples in a way. We put it in a potato salad before, and we put it inside of our grilled cheeses. So, but I love this beautiful salad that we're about to see from Jacqueline. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Before I get started, I have to say I love all the recipes you shared today. Fantastic. And Michelle mentioned the proverb, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And why? I'd like to share with you some facts. The first one, the apple is rich in antioxidants. The second one, it contains cholesterol-friendly nutrients. It supports a healthy digestive system. It is low on the glycemic index. It boosts our immune system, and it is more effective at waking you up in the morning than coffee. So I think the facts here are interesting. And today I'd like to share with you the recipe to make a simple salad. The salad here is for 1 or 2 people. We need 1 apple, some lettuce, some baby tomatoes, some mayonnaise. I used 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise and 2 tablespoons of roasted sesame dressing. It takes us just a few minutes to make the salad. First of all, we cut the lettuce into pieces. And after that, we peel and cut the apple into dices. Put the lettuce, baby tomatoes, and apple dices into a bowl. And then we mix mayonnaise and roasted sesame dressing. As I mentioned, I used 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise and 2 tablespoons of roasted sesame dressing, because the sesame dressing tastes sour. And then put all the ingredients and mix them together. It takes us just about 5 minutes to make the salad here. And to be more tasty, store the salad in the refrigerator for half an hour before serving. And I'm sure it is delicious. Okay, very, very simple, but healthy. Okay, thank you for watching. Back to you, Michelle.
That looked really good, Jacqueline.
It did.
Thank you.
I'm not sure about
Every,
the coffee propaganda though.
everything you do looks beautiful. We really appreciate it. I love the different pieces of the vinaigrettes and the different things that we learn to be able to leverage from the different flavor profiles. And apples are so great. Hopefully we're inspiring apples through everybody for the summer. You know, apples is one of the first things you put in a picnic basket, right? You start to think about how an apple for a teacher. Richard, you're in the middle. Let's give our teacher an apple. How many apples have you and Jacqueline received over years in theory from your students, right? It's that, let's give our teacher an apple. So I love the spirit of what apples bring. I also love the spirit that each one of you takes your time on Sundays in 45 weeks. It's amazing to think that. And it fills our heart, it fills our kitchens. And, you know, we really do enjoy each and every week to make the plan, to figure out what's going to be going on in the menu. And so I just really wanted to share that big thank you with each of you for breaking bread and getting to know what's cooking in Atlantic Canada. So as we're wrapping up, I've got that really yummy maple spice pork that I made. So I've got my peas rolling all over the plate. So we had looked earlier. So I had marinated the pork, remember, in the buffalo hot sauce with some of the herbs de Provence. So this one is dried rosemary, thyme, savory, marjoram, tarragon, and it has a little bit of lavender in it. Any combination of those would be good, but I do have to say that the rosemary in that really brings out that heightened level of flavor. And of course, a little bit of paprika, garlic, salt. Now the chutney that I made, and a chutney is really just thicker cut, cooked down, and it can be warm or it can be cold. So this is a warm chutney. This is what this looks like completely finished. And of course I took a level one of my beautiful little chive blossoms and put it on that. And those little green are some beautiful peas that I got from Angela to take out, and it gives it a little bit of crunch. So this is a piece of the fried pork that's all nice and crispy and golden because I really wanted it to be. And then you can see the chutney on the side is a little bit, get my fork out here, you can see it's got a little bit of a sauce to it, and there's chunks of apple. So I cut the apples into, that one's a zucchini. The zucchini cut into this size, and then the apples are the same size as that. So each time you get a bite in that, you're gonna get all those beautiful ingredients. The other thing that I included in that was some onions and garlic. So it's a really simple recipe. You put in, and it just cooks down in the pan. Two things, I used 2 apples in it though, because I did the same thing where I wanted the apples to stay a little bit harder in the consistency. And then the other apple, I wanted it to really melt through to create a bit of a sauce. So that was a different way to be able to use that. And of course and you can look at this beautiful little zucchini. These are some of the little zucchinis that are coming fresh out of the gardens here locally right now. And I actually really like these little small ones because when they're a little bit smaller, I find them a little bit sweeter, and the skins are beautiful to eat on them as well. So they certainly add a bit more of a variety. So it's been an apple-liciously beautiful menu today, full of health and benefits. So I just want to say to everybody, from our kitchens to yours, thank you. And I am looking forward to seeing, Roz, are your bars done? Do we get to see a finished product? Because I would love to see that.
If you want to take the time.
She's getting those out there. And just to let you guys know that next week is going to be sushi. And it's going to be fun. Jacqueline, we're leaning in on you on this one for some coaching and some support. I know Roz is a big fan. I don't eat a lot of sushi. So I'm going to work with someone locally to learn a little bit about it. And I'm probably going to be making it without fish. So I'm going to do some vegetable sushi rolls, but I'm really excited to explore some new product and some new food culinary experiences together with all of you. So Roz, letting you wrap up our day. Tell
Well,
us
it's-
about those, Roz.
Well, it's still hot, but they do smell delicious. So I have to wait for them to cool. I'm going to cut them into bar size, like small bar sizes. And like I said, I'm going to share with friends as well as stick some in the freezer because anyway, so far so good. They smell delicious. Oh, like I said, it's easy, it's quick. If you want to have a cooked one, this is a really good recipe. Enjoy your week, everybody.
Well, and everybody, and Emily just made a comment about the zucchini flowers and blossoms. And yes, we make sure that those are definitely leveraged here. And you will see those used. So we'll be demonstrating some of those flowers and blossoms and some cooking techniques as we move forward, for sure. So everybody have a great week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Sunday.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good
Have a great
time.
day.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.